Okay, so my image, I really thought about this, right? Which is if we want to be self sufficient, we want to be um, kind of a, I mean, we want to take advantage of the tropical nature of where we are. I have been always thinking about how farming and food production can be vertical rather than horizontal. And so that's where I was thinking that maybe we should start growing farms higher and higher. And so the human footprint on the earth becomes smaller and smaller. And so then, of course, the question is how do you supply water to these 1,000 and 2,000 foot tall silos? I haven't figured that out yet, but that's where I am. So I'm going to tag, let's see, Aprajita, bleak gray everywhere. You're muted.
Sorry, why was mine so bleak? Okay. I guess the recent DI thing is weighing heavily on my mind. So when I thought of 50 years into the future, it was sort of like a denuded land and there's just dust everywhere. You can't see the sky because it's covered, and we cut down all our forests. What I mean, I don't know what we're doing with them right now. Whatever we're doing with them right now. Yeah.
Now you tag the next person.
Vivek, would you like to go next?
Okay. So I think I read this, phrase somewhere last night, like Andher Nagri and Chaupat Raja. So I basically imagined like that, like there are like this some political leader walking on the street with like some 3-4 people, and then there are some people who are, let's say, walking on the street, and then they get into an argument and they're like, okay, off with their heads वाला जो होता है ना कि मतलब like खत्म कर दो इन्हें अभी के अभी. So like I saw that kind of a road scenario types कि ऐसे राजा जी चल रहे हैं और ये हो गया, तो वो आ रहा था अंधेर नगरी चौपट राजा वाला. So Arunabha.
Yes, I had a dystopian view of Wakanda. Wakanda is the city or the country of the Black Panther and the Marvel series, I think, right? So it is a very dystopian view of that. So in a way, siloed buildings, black color, gray, whatever you can say, and the remaining only the rich and the elite staying in that, and the others outside that, right? Somehow surviving in some sense. So I'll tag Chaya.
I don't know if Chaya had an image, but if she isn't, then Chaya, you can pass it along to someone else.
Otherwise, I can tag Anant.
Okay, so can I share screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, भैया जो आप yeah. So in some sense, I see some choices before us, right? And I very much fear that, where we are going, the conventional words of policy reform, etc., are going to not work. So we're going to end up with, and of course, we are not imaginative enough for making big, great transitions. I mean, this from the great transition scenario. So we end up with a fortress world I had in mind. And I want to show you one image from the same thing of this, right? So this is somehow what came to my mind as a result of not really seizing the opportunity and all the good stuff that people are trying to do by way of policy reform, all the good incremental stuff sort of failing. Yeah, I have to tag someone, Preeta.
I think there's a common theme about how we're imagining, but I mean, I am also thinking of a very stratified society where it's more comfortable the higher you go, and a little bit more harsh and unkind, and the lower you go. But I'm also, maybe if I'm being optimistic, I'm thinking of networks in a way that people, and I see a sense of that happening more and more. Like, we do rely on networks that we have for outreach, access, and I'm thinking that networks will be a sort of a stabilizing and anchoring uh, effect for people to survive either up or down or wherever it is. So, I think, I mean, in my head, I'd like to think of that being a little bit subversive and not just to break down entirely. But yeah. Um, Let me see, who else? Who else? I'm curious. Arvind had two ideas. So, yes, please, Arvind.
I don't know whether vertical cities is similar to what Rajesh also said, but the way I thought about it is that we will somehow the idea of we will learn from our tribal, tribes, being in tribes and so on. So a smaller, more close-knitted community is something which I could imagine, right? And in the best possible way, it would be in the form of vertical city, self-sustained, and bringing the best of all the things that we talk about. But I also quickly realized that I will continue to have my privileged eyes and looking at all of that, but miss out the rest of the. I definitely see that it'll be too. I can't imagine, and I'm very sad that I can't imagine a world where this kind of a positive future is for many, and that's what we're talking about. But I somehow I can't. Yeah. So I'll tag Alok.
I was trying to visualize them, and it's not visible, but let's see. So here's a vertical city with trees growing on it. These are basically silos. Then there's an interior of a city with a building with an entire tree inside, and these are rows of vegetation which we're growing inside. So basically, agriculture integrated into buildings. So
this is a Boston thing. You know what? This vertical city silo thing.
No, I was just visualizing what Rajesh said. I didn't have the time to
sorry.
come up with another idea.
And then Arvind is also doing that.
Okay, it's a TerraDo idea then.
Yeah.
I mean, not just students of TerraDo. But
no. Mine was a boss tell idea.
Okay. Okay.
We still have Kavya.
I think my idea was already talked about in the sense that in the more dystopian vision, it is a divided and fairly segregated society where there are certain communities that are self-sufficient and are managing, and others who are just left to the worst possible scenarios. But then the more optimistic vision is for the self-sufficient communities to be interlinked and networked together and to actually take care of one another when one community is not able to provide the resources they need for one another. And I think a lot of that would have to borrow from indigenous practices, and also living with a lot less than we imagine that is necessary in terms of what we possess in terms of material wealth. It would be a complete reimagination of our value system for the utopian vision to come into fruition, I think. So it was both ways for me. I don't know if anyone is left, so I'll pass it back to you, Rajesh.
Chaya is left. She's got two different words. So Chaya, if you want to explain your phrase there, that would be great.
Yeah, actually, I was thinking the same as Kavya. Like, they're going to be two completely different worlds, and it will be divided on, I guess, money, social differences. A lot like what we have today, but only much stronger. So of course, I mean, of course, we'll have vertical buildings and life, but we'll also have extreme poverty and deforestation and impacts of flooding and erosion, which we're already facing in some areas. So magnified all that.
Wow. Okay, so we have our work cut out for the next 50 years, I guess, if we want to prevent this from happening. Sumit, what we have been doing today, because Prachur couldn't present, is that we've all been sharing our imagination of 2070. So the idea being that think of one image that comes to your mind of what, say, India would be in 2070, and then share it in about 15 or 20 seconds. So if you can think of one on the spot, great. Otherwise, we won't force you.
Yeah, it's too early to make up some mind. So give me a couple of moments while others speak.
You're the only person left. That's the.
Okay. So yeah, considering what I've been going through in a couple of last days, so I think India specifically needs to change a lot. But I don't see focus in too much. I don't see the focus of the governments and the people itself. I don't see them changing too much towards the climate, because we are going through a lot internally. So if we have to paint a rosy picture, I think the rosy picture would be to have somebody running the prime minister's office who does this and who makes the change. Yeah.
I see a little person right next to you.
Yeah,
Maybe.
he's my son. Yeah, Kabir.
Hi, Kabir.
I can't listen to you. Kabir, say hello.
Hi, Kabir.
Hi, Kabir.
Say hello.
Hello.
Cool.
Saprajita thinks we are a very bleak group. I'm not sure if that's a bad place to start, but maybe it gives us a floor that we can build on. Some of us are not as bleak as others, but I agree that I generally think the climate world tends to be a bleak. There's a kind of mood of bleakness in the network across the world that I have encountered. Okay.
So the person who enabled or forced this bleak discussion to have is also just joined on the call.
So say something.
So you also have to present an idea.
Yeah, no, I just joined a minute back. I was just listening to some ideas. So I was just reading this Rethink X report, in which it says we are at a dramatic inflection point in terms of transformation in sectors. So I think in 2070, I feel like the geography or the way to think about it, the planet would either be in very small clusters or at a very large global scale, either of those things, like either a city, nation, state to think of, or a large global universe kind of with like a United Nations type government. So yeah, I mean, then that would have anyway, I mean, that's my thinking. The large United States government and space theory and all I've been watching in this new sci-fi show called Expanse. So anyway, that's where it comes from. But maybe, yeah, that's my thinking.
Awesome. So we have an interesting set of visions. It'll be kind of cute to do one of these or something like this every 2 months or so, just to see how our
Rajesh, it might also be good internal counterpart, meaning that's the world. What is me? I mean, you know, can people hear me?
Yeah.
So that might be, maybe we don't wait 2 months, but we find, you know, what I'm trying to say is like, I mean, you know, I mean, it's quite certain that the thing that I call Anant is not going to be, you know, around in 2070. That's right. I will be 104 years old, and that's quite unlikely, I think. But you know, it'd be interesting. Supposing I were imagining myself living in 2070. I mean, the world is dystopian, or it tends to be in our imagination. I mean, I'm saying, what is the inner counterpart? Might be an interesting exercise. I'm just making a suggestion. I mean, how am I feeling? Might be an interesting question. How am I feeling? What's my family like? The inner landscape.
Well, we have a couple of minutes, so if somebody wants to share how they will be feeling in 2070, we can conclude with that. Aparajita is really
Arvind's typing away.
I see.
Will we be alive?
No, assume you are alive.
Okay.
And assume that, let's say, the kind of outside world you imagine has come to be. What is the inner like? I mean, that was the suggestion that I was.
I think we might be consuming a large amount of drugs to sort of like inhibit our empathy. So either inhibit our empathy or to sort of like expand it. Because you can't, if the world is really like has become like sort of very unequal or divided that way, then if you have to survive and if you have to live in that world, you cannot, I think, live with empathy.
Okay. Arvind thinks he'll be a worm and insects. Okay.
Aparajita hopefully thinks he'll be a lovely tree.
Okay.
And Arvind wants to upload his consciousness.
Acha, upload show.
So I have, sorry, Rajesh, you go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So, you know, I hope I would have relinquished and given up all the things that I have to give up, and have you know, restored what I can, and you know, I imagine myself being let's say at peace in some sense, with my heart open, with my, you know, I mean, I imagine myself, you know, consciously trying to be outside the fortress, you know, living in the world in as best as I can.
Interesting.
I don't know. So like my favorite character in Tolkien's Lord of the Rings is Treebeard, right? The Ent. So I always wonder what it would be like to be a slowly moving tree. I mean, I think I'll be close enough to an age where slow movement might be the only movement possible. But if I can add a tree to that, it's not bad. Well, we got 1 more minute. So what I suggest is...
And there is this deep adaptation framework, which I kind of like. So I'll post it on the group.
Please do.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we are at that time when we have to come back to 2020 and say bye to each other. But I thought this was quite a nice conversation. and sort of sets a good mood for us to do the more concrete work.
So shall we do a voting exercise before we leave? The voting exercise goes as follows. We all close our eyes, hold up a finger to show, the right way, right? So we can see the palm and not the, and give your score. 5 being the session was quite interesting, 1 being awful. And the reason to close our eyes, hold up our score, and then open our eyes is so we don't get anchored by other people. Okay, so I put score, and then host can turn video on.
All right, you're getting 4s. Preeta, is that a 3 or a 4?
It's a 3.5.
Okay, 3.5.
I don't know. The choice was awful and interesting, and it was both. So I think interesting got the better half of it. So it's 3.5. But awful in the sense it didn't put me in a good mood, but that's a good enough motivation to work. So it's okay. One can live with that.
Alok got 3. Anand got 3. I don't know what Sumit has. I can't see his hands. 3. Okay. And Kavya has got 4. I think Arvind had 4. I don't know what Ram had. 5. Okay. All right. So
Chaya has 4.
Yeah, 4. So I think 4 is a good average across. There are a couple of 3s, couple of 5s, and mostly 4s. So not bad. It's a good session.
But we haven't heard from the wise man in the group. We have from Socrates.
Socrates kahan hai?
At 3. I was pointing at 3.
Both Sumit and Prachur came for 3 minutes and gave 3.
Exactly the reason.
Vivek ka bhi nahi dekha.
Average.
4.
Vivek ka 4. Acha. And Arunabha ka kitna tha?
4.
4 seems like the...
I'm disappearing in this. It looks very strange.
Yes.
Kabir is also here.
Excellent. Okay. So that's a good place for us to end this session. And
thank you.
We'll see.
Bye, Kabir. Bye, Kabir. That's a young man who would be there at 2070.
Yes. Bye, Kabir. Exactly.
We should leave it in a good place.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Make sure that Kabir
Bye.
has the right word.